Compulsive exercise. It's the topic of today's video. Stay tuned. If you want to control what you eat and control your body, then hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video. And don't forget to sign up for my free 7-day challenge, Stop Overeating in 7 days. It's absolutely free. There is a link below. And if you want to speak with me personally, there is also a link in the description box. What is compulsive exercise? It's exercising because you feel like you have to. You probably binge, you probably overeat, and now you need to compensate somehow. You can't purge, or maybe you're not in the habit of purging, or you just don't know how to purge. Thank God you don't. But you have to find some other way to compensate, and that's where compulsive exercise comes in. It's not to get fit, it's not to look better, it's not to get leaner, it's not to meet some fitness goal. It's really just paying penance for all that food that you didn't mean to eat. You're not exercising for fun, you're not exercising for fitness, you're only exercising to burn calories, which is compulsive exercise. It's not fun, it's not making you happy, it's not getting you fitter, and it's not really good for your body. It's not building muscle mass, and you don't have any goal. It's not like you're training for a marathon or a triathlon or anything. In that case, training can be kind of fun because you actually have some goal. You're just paying penance, and it makes exercise less fun. Compulsive exercise then is just another form of compensation. It's not as severe as purging, forcing yourself to vomit, but it is another compensatory activity. You feel like you have to do it because in your mind, if you don't do it, then you're going to gain all this weight. So you're trying to do something to attenuate that gain. And as a personal confession, I have worked out for up to 4 hours at a time to compensate for a binge. It was a complete waste of my time. I compensated and then I ate some more and then the cycle just continued. I'm somebody who actually likes to exercise, and I made myself hate exercise because every time I did it, it was after an episode. It was always after a binge. And I came to hate it because I associated it with a loss of control and binging. When I was in my early 20s, I was doing triathlons. I was probably in the best physical shape of my life in terms of athletic performance. Although my health was declining, my testosterone collapsed, I had bleeding in my eye, I had no muscle mass. Nobody thought I looked good. I wasn't attractive. You could see all my cheekbones. I can barely stand to look at old photos of myself. It's actually really nasty. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten, but now in retrospect, I realize that I did. But at the time, at least I had some goal. I was training for races and it was fun. I looked forward to my workouts. Over time, as binging and purging got worse, I just used exercise as a form of compensation, and I just did the same exercises over and over. My favorite was the Stairmaster and uphill walking. Running was too hard because when you have a bunch of crap in your stomach and your intestines, it's really hard to run. You get cramps. It's not pleasant at all. So I would do Stairmaster because it didn't move my stomach and my intestines like that, but I still got a good workout and I always felt better afterwards. But I wasn't getting fitter, I wasn't improving my performance in any way. I didn't have any goal. I was just doing it because I felt like I had to do it. For many of those years, I didn't do weightlifting because weightlifting doesn't burn as many calories, although it has so many health benefits, and if you're not lifting weights, you probably should, and there's some other channels that'll show you how to do that. But I wasn't lifting because I felt like I needed to get the maximum burn. So all those years went by, 8-9 years without lifting any weights, and my muscles atrophied. I mean, they died, they got smaller. I wasn't getting any stronger. I was really neglecting my body, and I was just doing chronic cardio all the time. So believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I know what compulsory exercise is. It's not cool. The thing about compensatory exercise or compulsive exercise is it doesn't really help attenuate the loss. How many calories can you burn in an hour? 500, 600, 700? I don't know how many I can burn. I guess if I did a 10K in 45 minutes, I'd probably burn like 700. I don't know. My metabolism is pretty fast. That's really the only reason I'm not obese, is because I could burn so much of it. But you can only compensate so long. I mean, you can go work out 1-2 hours, but then you're wasting time, you get tired, and then you're burning out, and you have other things that you need to do. The only benefit really of compulsive exercise is you feel like you've accomplished something and you feel like you're better afterwards, and so when you finish the workout you feel like you've done something to compensate. The thing is, when you binge or you overeat, one part of your mind is operating, and it's giving you these urges, this insatiable appetite to consume a lot more than what you want. And then once you satisfy that craving or satisfy that urge, that part of your brain shuts down, and then another part of your brain takes over, that rational brain. the part of the brain that's producing these words, the part of the brain that's watching this video, and it's thinking, uh-oh, we've got to do something. Damage control. Let's go to the gym. Let's hit the treadmill. Let's hit the stair machine, whatever. In that sense, compulsive exercise makes you feel better. Just understand you can't completely compensate, and you're only making the habit stronger and stronger. To give you an idea of how strong it was, it took me almost 10 years to stop. Okay, 10 years, that's a long time. It turns into this vicious cycle. You start to hate exercise. I don't know, hate exercise, that's kind of a strong word, but you associate exercise with binging, overeating, eating disorders, and it's just, you get burned out. You get tired of doing the same workouts all the time. You get tired of going to the gym. It almost becomes like a second home after a while. You have all these things that you know you should be doing, schoolwork, or maybe you have a job, or maybe you have kids, or maybe you have relationships. You're neglecting something in your life when you're doing that, and you're not getting fitter. You're not getting smarter. You're not accomplishing anything. You just want to achieve that satisfaction of knowing that you are compensating for part of that binge or some of the food that you ate. In other words, you go 10 steps back and then 3 steps forward, but you still end up 7 steps behind. And it's just this vicious cycle, and it's really hard to break. So how do you break it? Good question. First, you have to recognize that impulse. So after you binge, after you overeat, you're probably thinking, go exercise, purge, laxatives, all three, try to do something to compensate. That's your first step. You've got to recognize that. Now, you're not going to like this, but the only way to break that cycle is either don't binge, don't overeat, and if you can't do that, don't do the overexercising. And at first, it's really hard to do that because you're thinking of the consequences. If you don't burn anything, you're just going to gain that much more weight. But like I said, if you binge on 5,000 calories and you only burn an extra 500, you're only burning 1/10 of that. So just remember, all you're doing is you're sacrificing that sense of satisfaction, but you're liberating that time to do other things, and you're giving yourself time to focus on other tasks that need attention. And when you first break it, it's going to feel hard, and you're going to have those voices in your head that say, exercise, exercise, exercise. But just understand, you've got to break the cycle somewhere. Preferably, you would break the cycle before you binge, but easier said than done, and I have other videos on how to do that. And if you are having trouble overeating, binge eating, then join my 7-day challenge, Stop Overeating in 7 days. Yep, another shameless plug. What's better than the compulsive exercise is to do something lighter. I found that just taking a brisk walk, 3.5 miles an hour, slight incline, nothing strenuous, something that's actually going to calm you down. I just found that moving a little bit made me feel a little better. It facilitated digestion. I could just go walk on the treadmill. I didn't feel this compulsion to burn as much as possible, and I wasn't sweating as much, and I didn't feel as tired. Thing is, when you're doing all this compulsive exercise, you get sore, your muscles are sore, you feel tired when you go to bed, your legs start to feel heavy, you feel like you're training like an athlete, but you're not. So you have all of the negative effects of training like a full-time athlete, the soreness, the fatigue, the central nervous system fatigue. That's another huge problem. But you don't have any of the benefits, which is getting fitter. When you're an athlete, you have a goal and you're tracking your progress. Whereas when you're doing compulsive exercise, there is no progress. You're just like Sisyphus pushing that stone up the hill, and then it falls back down again. After a binge, after overeating, it's really hard to do nothing, I find. Although that is not a bad thing to do, but it's not bad to take a walk. So if you have a hard time going from binging, overeating, whatever, to just nothing, do the light walk, see how that works. But absolutely do not do strenuous exercise. It's going to suck at first because you feel like you should be doing something. But trust me, the more times you break the cycle, the easier it becomes. One thing that I did is before I binged or before I overate, I reminded myself I couldn't use exercise. So anything more than an hour a day, I told myself, you can't do any more. That's it. So if you binge, if you overeat, if you eat 6,000 calories today, there's going to be no extra exercise to compensate for that. It's easier to binge. It's easier to convince yourself that it's okay when you promise that you're going to compensate. oh, I'll just, stick a toothbrush down my throat, or I'm just gonna go exercise, I'll just do laxatives, because it makes you feel less guilty. Because, oh, it's okay, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can have my 5,000 calories or whatever, and I can just compensate later. Once you cut off that option, binging and overeating become less appetizing because you know there's going to be no compensation. In other words, make the commitment before you actually do the deed. It's best not to do it, but I understand it's a hard habit to stop. But just promise yourself there will be no compensation. There will be no compulsive exercise this time. The next time you feel like compulsive exercise, just understand most of your weight loss is going to come from the diet side, and only 10% is going to come from the exercise. You can only burn so much. I know it seems kind of cruel, but it's actually a good thing because that's how our great-great-grandparents survived. They survived because it was easier to accumulate fat than to lose it. It's not an advantage now, but that's the only reason we're here, okay? Our ancestors probably would not have survived the famine if that had not been the case. So be thankful it's that way. The best way to start losing weight is to stop the binging and the overeating. You don't need to do anything drastic. You don't need to do keto. You don't need to do Whole30. You don't need to do any of those popular diets. You don't even need to cut out junk food completely, believe it or not. All you need to do is stop the binging and stop the overeating and keep the exercise constant. Do a mixture of resistance training, to preserve your muscle mass, and then do some sort of cardio. I like to run as long as I don't have too much in my system and I'm at a certain weight. Swimming is also good. Maybe you like dancing, maybe you like group X, I don't know. Just do whatever it is that you want to do. Just ignore the compulsion to exercise. If you're exercising simply to burn calories, you've got a problem. I like to say pretend exercise doesn't burn any extra calories. You're doing it for the cardiovascular fitness, you're doing it for the bone health, you're doing it for the mental health, it's actually good for the brain, and you're doing it to be healthy overall and to prevent chronic disease. But pretend like that calorie counter on that treadmill is going to be 0 the whole time. I hope these tips help. Are you exercising compulsively? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you found this video entertaining and educational. If you did, then you're probably going to like some of the videos that you see on the screen right now. Click one of them and I'll see you there.